What's up? This is episode 69, I believe, of the HooperCast. I've been doing some shuffling around, so if it's out of order, I apologize. But it's a half apology, because who cares? Right, Dustin?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't care.
Me neither.
Well, then neither should you, listener.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Mind your own business.
That's right.
Let us do this podcast the way we want to.
You close those drapes and mind your P's and Q's.
Stop telling us how to count.
Yeah. Dustin, we have got some TV to talk about today.
Indeed we do.
Woo!
Woo!
A couple of AMC shows, actually. Good old AMC.
Good old AMC.
I guess we'll just go with Better Call Saul first, right?
Okay, sure. I'm down for that.
Which, at the time of this recording, I've only seen the first 2 episodes of the show. I ran out of... I don't have TV right now because I'm having some difficulty acquiring it. So I've only seen the first 2. And by the time this is released, it'll probably be right before the airing of the 4th episode. But we're not really here to recap the events of the show as much as we are just how the show seems to be set up and the tone. Yeah. Really just more of an early assessment of the show. And then after we're done talking about this, we'll talk about The Walking Dead as well.
Yes. And just to let all of you listeners know, I'm a little under the weather, so sniffles and coughs, I apologize for them.
I'm above the weather because I'm better than everybody else, so including the weather. So Dustin's down there with the little people underneath it, but I'm up with the clouds. I'm up with the... I couldn't even say
Cloud 9.
I'm above the weather. I'm not, however, above grammar or the English language. So
precisely.
Yeah. The one thing that remains below the weather is books. So that's where Dustin is.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, what is there to say really about Better Call Saul? The I guess you'd call it prequel, sequel, but definitely spiritual successor to Breaking Bad.
Yes.
I mean, I'll say this. We both know I was very skeptical of this show.
Sure.
When it was announced, when it was actually greenlit. And, you know, and when I heard that you'd be seeing actors from Breaking Bad in it, because I felt like the show, that Breaking Bad had said its piece, and it was completely good by itself, and I was not interested in, you know, learning more about the characters in that show or what may have happened to them after. You know, because I thought, no, the story was told just fine.
Exactly.
And I believe way back when this show was announced, it was originally going to be more of like a comedy, and then just throughout the process, they realized, no, it's going to have funny parts, just like Breaking Bad did. But I mean, this story isn't really comedic. It's its own drama.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen so far, I'm impressed. I you know, it's not what I was afraid it was going to be. From what I've seen so far.
I think tonally it's not super different from Breaking Bad. I feel like it flows pretty well, both in terms of the style of filmmaking, you know, the cinematography, music choices, all that kind of stuff. I think kind of flows really well with Breaking Bad. In other words, you could watch the two of them, and I feel like they would flow together. As if it was always intended to be one thing. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Hooper. I was kind of, for some reason, still expecting a little like sitcom-y kind of comedy up until sort of right before it aired, when I started hearing more drama, because I did sort of block myself out of news about it, just because I didn't want to be spoiled. I didn't want to go in with any sort of like preconceived notions. So I definitely did block everything out. I didn't really watch many trailers. I didn't really go out of my way to find out anything about the show. So right before it aired, I'd sort of heard a few people who had seen screeners talk about how dramatic it was. And I guess that kind of caught me off guard. And even when I watched the pilot, felt like in my mind I had built it up into something that it was never going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I agree, and I kind of did the same, and I thought, well, maybe it's better for me to approach it from a place of skepticism, because I'd rather judge it. I'd rather give it a high bar, because if you're going to involve a lot of the same cast and characters and creative team and setting as Breaking Bad, and you're going to put it on the same network, and you want to carry that audience over. I mean, if the only reason I watched it was well, really, because you told me it was good, but but if Vince Gilligan hadn't been involved, I don't know if I would have jumped aboard.
Right. Sure.
I was and I think maybe he knew that. Like, he probably was confident that Peter Gould could do the show without him.
Sure.
But he probably thought that he'd help it jump off, and that that I don't know how many people he thought might Google and see if he was involved, but it certainly was a big factor in me choosing to watch the show.
Sure. And rightfully so. I mean, he's the keeper of that whole world, and if he's not involved, then I'm not really interested.
And what they did too was, I'm glad that they really gave Saul, or Jimmy. I'm going to call him Saul. I mean, he's okay. That's because that's who we know him as. That's the that's the name in the title. Yeah. Even though and I think it's referenced in Breaking Bad. Saul Goodman's real name is James McGill. Right. And so throughout this show, he's called Jimmy. Jimmy, yeah, yeah. So it does help it feel like a different show right off the bat, because he's not even referred to as Saul in these first couple episodes, because that's just not who he is yet. So maybe that was an extra layer of separation for me that helped me give the show a fair shot, because they're not going like, oh, hey, Goodman. Because it didn't feel, because he's a completely different person at this point. Right. He's still got that scheming little side to him, but at this point, he's got too many external problems in his life to really, focus. To really, what I mean? Like, there's too much going on in his life. Like, he hasn't reached the point yet of being the real criminal lawyer that he refers to himself as in Breaking Bad. I mean, when we see him right at the start of the show, he's a public defender making crap money for people, juvenile crap delinquents cases. And stupid cases. I thought it was so funny the case, like the right off the bat, because the whole time you're wondering like what they do, and
right. And tell me that does not set the tone of the show right from the get-go.
Yeah. So that was cool, and I think it's real interesting, the situation with his brother. Yeah, I didn't even realize there were people out there who thought that they might be sensitive to electromagnetism. Yeah. And so the whole phone in the mailbox thing, and the cooler and lanterns and stuff for this super rich lawyer who has cancer and thinks he has electromagnetic sensitivity. It's just it's maybe it's a small thing in the grand scheme of things, but at least it's not like, oh, I have leukemia and I've got kidney failure and I got a dialysis machine. It's like, this is something I've never seen. This, I mean, the show takes place in what, 2002?
2002, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of interesting that it's also set, 13 years ago. Yeah. And it kind of removes a few of the... I always enjoy that in a way, because it forces you to write in a way that doesn't rely on the internet as much, or smartphones, like things like that not being around really help conflict. Yeah. There's still cell phones and cars and lots of other things we have, but for all those millennials who may be listening, things were a tad bit more difficult in terms of communication in the early 2000s, and so yeah, it's an interesting setting for the show, and I like the characters that they've put forth so far. I like him. I like that. What's his name? Mike works at a toll booth, and he's one of those minimum wage douchebags who won't let you through the gate no matter what. Yep. And I like the two the two twin dudes. Yeah. The
skateboarders.
It's so far I'm impressed with the show, and I'd like to, as soon as I get my cable back, I'll keep watching it.
Sure.
I can finally be with the show on the ground floor this time, because I usually catch up with these shows when they're in their second or third season, and
I'm the same way.
It'd be interesting to sort of get on board at the beginning.
From the beginning, yeah. Yeah, no, I think I tend to do the same thing. I guess the only thing recently that I've been watching from the beginning is like The Flash, but that doesn't have quite the same serialized nature that Saul does.
Yeah.
But or the heavy themes and whatnot. It's a dude running fast.
Yeah. What is Barry running from inside of himself? That's the real question.
So I mean, I'll tell you what I really sort of enjoyed about the pilot is the lack of exposition. And I feel like had this been on any other network, they would have been forced to say a lot of things up front and set the world a lot quicker, but a lot more obviously. So when you watch the pilot, I don't even think the pilot tells you his relationship to Chuck. I think they just like talk. Or do they say brother? I can't remember.
I didn't realize for a long time who he was. I think it may have been on that letter he received, like when he gets the check.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I couldn't read it fast enough, but I'm sure if you freeze framed it, would say, for your brother Chuck or whatever. Just to throw in there, like, well, we did tell you.
Right,
I think it's not until he goes to his house and he's like,
mm-hmm.
or, hey, we're brothers or something. I mean, it wasn't fairly obvious, but someone at some point says, because he has the same name. And he's like, I mean, McGill. Right. And then I realized, oh, this is brother.
Brother, yeah. So I enjoy
his
when
60-year-old brother.
I enjoy when they take their time setting everything up and they do it in a realistic way, which I mean, it sounds nitpicky, I guess, to be like, because at the end of the day, you kind of have to have some exposition, but if you do it in a realistic way, like I never felt like it was, Jimmy like going to Chuck and saying, Chuck, you're my brother and you wouldn't do this, setting everything out like from you're my brother and you have cancer and you shouldn't be doing these things, or whatever it is, that they play it in a very realistic way. And I enjoy as an audience member being treated like I'm able to put things together for myself.
Well, and also treat me like I was telling John this at some point. Mm-hmm. There are really two big factors for me when I'm watching something that are bigger factors for me than they probably are for other people, and bigger factors to me than plot or whatever this. I want to feel like the choices that people make actual sense. I want the motivation for their choices to be understandable.
Yeah.
And I want them to talk the way people talk.
Yeah.
And I understand in media you can't always do that because you're trying to give information, but I do appreciate whenever I can drop in on a show and feel like, like I'm with one of the ghosts of Christmas Present and I'm just observing something.
Fly on the wall.
When you'd pop in and be like, we've been working on the house for a while now. We've almost got the money saved up. I'd rather just go, no, we can't do that, or just imply more things because it makes you
over
pay
time
attention.
We'll understand. Yeah,
it makes you pay attention and try to learn and use your fucking brain.
Exactly. Instead
of just watching something that's mindlessly entertaining. Like I was watching all these Vine videos. I just got onto Vines, by the way. I'm a few years late, but I was watching a big compilation of them, and I was explaining to someone. I said, I can feel my brain melting because I'm not learning anything. I'm not following. I'm watching little 6-second segments of comedy, and it's entertaining. But I have that feeling of this is not helping me at all. Like this isn't doing anything for me, and I don't want that feeling when I watch a show. I don't want to just sit there and feel like, oh, that's funny, but then feel like it was a big waste of time. So this is the opposite, where you've got a story to follow, characters to follow, and it's not being spoon-fed to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, I enjoy that, and the pilot episode had some Vince Gilligan fingerprints kind of all over it in terms of shot design and even just the way it was written and the way everything kind of unfolded. It's very quiet, that pilot episode. When you think back about it, the first half of it's very, very quiet. I enjoy that kind of stuff. I think there's something to be said for this minimalism kind of withholding of information, because over time we will understand it, And we don't have to know every single thing about these characters right up front. And to be honest, we don't have to know every single thing about them anyway. We just have to know enough about them to sympathize and understand why they make the choices they make. And I just enjoy that style of writing, and it carries over. I think Vince Gilligan did write the pilot, or at least co-wrote it, and but I don't think he did any of the other episodes. But that style, that tone that Vince sets in the pilot and in Breaking Bad definitely carries over to episode 2 and 3. I'm with you, Hooper. I was pleasantly surprised because my two worst fears for this show were A, that it would be so bad it would taint Breaking Bad, or that it would be so good that it would be better than Breaking Bad. Those were my two worst fears, and I don't think either one of those fears, will happen. But I think we're off to a really good start here, and especially when compared to a lot of things on TV. I'm, like I said, 3 episodes in, and I'm already more connected to this show than pretty much anything else after 3 episodes, and so that's a feat in and of itself. So
yeah. It's I've got. I mean, my expectations are now raised for this show, but not in a way that. I mean, if they keep doing what they're doing, they've got my viewership for now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, whenever they start introducing like time travel and aliens, then we'll start talking about, I think you jumped the shark, but I don't think we have to worry about them doing anything outrageous. I think they know what they're doing.
Well, and they also know that they have a very set, end game for because eventually he becomes Saul Goodman, criminal lawyer of Albuquerque, sure. And with Huel and his little office and certain kinds of clientele. I'm sure we'll see whoever other characters at some point. And my only hope is that that's good because it forces them like, well, what else is interesting about our show? Because people know where the plot's going to end up. So what happens? Yeah. And you have to explore what kinds of things Saul Goodman has seen by the time he becomes Saul Goodman.
Sure.
So it forces you to make the character more interesting.
Exactly.
As opposed to just relying on a plot and events happening to spice up your show.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good.
And I'll say this too. Episode 1 started with a pretty long sequence in black and white, which was
I had to go back and read because I didn't even realize what that was supposed to be. Like I thought.
See.
I didn't understand the point at first.
Gotcha. The only reason I knew what was happening was because I remember this offhanded joke that Saul makes in Breaking Bad that if I'm lucky I'll be managing a Cinnabon in Omaha, and as it turns out that's where he is.
Yeah.
So it starts with this black and white sequence that's set after Breaking Bad. Now I don't know exactly where they're going to go with that. It seems Saul is a little paranoid and a little nostalgic for his time as Saul Goodman, because I don't know what his name is, his witness protection name or whatever.
Yeah.
But he, I think what they're doing, I think is smart because I think I can say this, Hooper. By the time the 3rd episode wraps up, we still haven't seen that again. I don't know how often we'll go to that, or if we never will again. I'm not sure. But I think it does a really good job right up front of setting the stage of the different sort of chapters in this man's life.
Yeah.
So we start with him like broken and paranoid. We've seen him already, like, top of his game criminal lawyer. Mm-hmm. And then when we flash back, he's this broken, the world is against me. I'm running a law office out of the maintenance room of a nail salon.
Yeah.
Kind of guy. And I think it's really cool to be able to see these different chapters in his life and hopefully we will see the future Saul at some point again, because I think there's still a story left to tell there. I I don't know what it is, but I mean, I believe they could make something happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it's interesting because if I think you know this about me, Hooper. One of the things that I love watching, and one of the reasons I loved Breaking Bad, is change. I love to see change in people. And that's why I love, when you watch Lord of the Rings, you can see how different Frodo is at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring and at the end of Return of the King. I love watching characters change over time. And so to be able to see these three distinct types of Saul Goodman, I think are really, really interesting. And that grabs me as a viewer from the get-go.
Yeah, I agree.
If you have not seen Breaking Bad, go watch it now. And if you have seen Breaking Bad, don't be afraid of Better Call Saul. Give it a shot, too.
Yeah, I agree. The other AMC show that's in its 5th season now, The Walking Dead, it's got only maybe a few episodes left until that season's done, right? What has it got? 6 more episodes, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, what you say you've got some thoughts on it.
I do.
This is the first time, by the way, that we've talked about the show where I'm actually caught up.
Sure.
Like we're actually in the same
spot.
At the same point in the show.
Yeah.
So I can finally contribute.
Awesome. So for all of you listening out there, we are up to this point. What's the last episode that just aired, Hooper? I can't remember.
Hang on, I can tell you.
It's called What Happened and What's Going On.
Yes.
It aired February 8th of 2015. So if you have not seen everything up to this point, you might want to skip this because there will be spoilers. I think there is another episode that has aired. Hooper and I have not seen that yet, but we are up to that point, episode 9 of season 5. So there will be spoilers up to that point. Hooper, why don't you recap for us where we are?
We in this season of the show, we are. Well, I guess they're on. What you mean, like from the mid-season, or where are we assuming? I guess
let's do from the mid-season. Yeah.
From the mid-season, didn't they? I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember. Oh, they're with the priest and everything. So they are not. There are certain periods of the show where they've got like a stronghold in one place or another. Maybe, the 3rd and 4th season were largely around the prison and what they thought would be a good place, Terminus, which they escaped from, where they were eating people. So they're kind of on the lam right now, sorry, I'm just having a hard time remembering what's happening. To be honest, because they're just sort of spread around and moving around, and they're doing a lot of non-linear shit that's confusing me too.
It's true. They have escaped from Atlanta, and they've picked up a new character played by Everybody Hates Chris. I don't know his name.
Oh, that's right. They went back to Atlanta.
That dude. And that dude had a place.
Noah,
that's his name. Noah had a place that he was from in Virginia, I believe.
Yeah.
And he thought there would be a safe refuge for them where his mother and his twin brothers live. So they actually take to the road and end up in Virginia in episode 9, which is a little bit funny because they spent like 5 years, 30 miles outside of Atlanta, and then in like 5 minutes they're in Virginia.
Yeah, it takes them, a very long time to travel anywhere in this show, but then in like the span of less than a minute, they go from, central Georgia all the way to Virginia.
Exactly. They're still shooting in Atlanta, which is great.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll leave us, but they are in Virginia in the show, and they make it up to Noah's house, and it is overrun. Everyone's dead, and the group gets into some trouble there and does a lot of dialoguing about random things.
Yeah. I really don't like this slow contemplative dialogue. That belongs in a movie, but you cannot keep padding TV episodes with that. It's just a bunch of fat that needs to be trimmed. Like
That's
at this
exactly
point,
right.
Do we need to keep having philosophical discussions about, what is human nature and why and should we change? I get it. I understand.
Right.
I never thought I'd be saying this, but I want more plot from a show. I'm sick of the character explorations through words. I want to see them doing things.
Yeah. No, I agree, because I think part of that, Hooper, is because these characters aren't particularly interesting.
Yeah.
In that when they dialogue, they sort of always agree with each other. There's not like a Jack and Locke kind of philosophical I'm opposite of you viewpoint.
Yeah.
There's nobody that looks at Rick, and when Rick says, we're going to do something, nobody goes, Rick, I actually don't think we should do that.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Everybody's just like, okay, Rick. So for that reason, it's just not as interesting, and I think maybe that's part of it. Another thing, and I think you make a good point, is when you're talking about, I get it. I get the point of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'll compare it to, Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul even, and say, this is what it reminds me of, okay? So imagine we're at like a piano recital. Vince Gilligan sits down at the bench, cracks his knuckles, and starts playing all over that piano, right? A little bit of happy, a little bit of sad, a little bit of tense. Here's some violence, here's some happy, here's some comedy, here's, all this stuff, all these feelings, all these emotions happening all over the keyboard. He gets up, everybody cheers, it's a masterpiece. He leaves. Then Scott Gimple comes out, cracks his knuckles, sits down, and hits one key and just keeps hitting it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's what The Walking Dead is to me. It's not a bad note that's being hit. It's just at some point, like, give me a little harmony, or, maybe play it in a different octave or something,
Right.
So to me, that's The Walking Dead's fatal flaw is they're asking these questions about, are we too far gone? Can people change? What's, human nature? Is there any good in us? That kind of stuff. But they keep asking the question, and they keep like seemingly giving us answers, but the answers are always the same answers. So why do they keep asking the questions?
It's mostly like they travel some and then they sit and someone goes, is life worth living? And then someone else goes, I don't know. And then a few episodes later, is life worth living still? I don't know. And it's always just, I don't know is the answer to every question of every philosophical existential question on the show. It's always just, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, well, why am I listening to you then?
Exactly.
What do you have to say that's enlightening to me? It's just so when you basically make it plain to me that no one on the show has anything enlightening or new to bring to the table philosophically, considering their circumstances, then it's like, all right, well, the only thing left to do is just have them do things. Because if you can't tell me who they are by their words, then you're just going to have to show me who they are by their actions. And if you can't do that, then why am I watching the show? Precisely.
Now, and I think it's interesting too that one of the reasons that they keep answering the questions over and over is because every character is the same. Like I just said, there's nobody that, besides like maybe Herschel, there was nobody really to have a different answer that would have had a different answer than maybe, or I don't know. Now we have this priest on the show, and when we first meet the priest, I thought, okay, maybe this guy will be sort of maybe he can have a different worldview and kind of be that opposite of what Rick is.
No, but he's just a scared bitch.
Yeah, exactly. He's the exact same way. Like, he is acting the same way that, like, season 2 Carl acted.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for that for him to be there.
Dude, I don't know what that guy's deal is, by the way.
Yeah,
like, he's the only part of the show right now that I'm actually curious about. Like, what's up with him?
Yeah, he's weird. I don't know. He's hiding something or something.
Yeah, it better be good, because if it's like, I'm gay, then it's like, oh, well.
Oh, great.
Do you think that's a priority right now?
Yeah, but even if you think about the characters who have changed, because there are characters who have changed. Look at Carol. But look what Carol has become, and tell me how different she is from Rick. Not really.
Yeah.
Because so if every character is having the same arc,
yeah,
even Carl, from little kid to hunter, it's the same arc. Everyone's just learning how to hunt and how to kill. So where's the difference? And then I thought, okay, Tyrese is going to be that difference. Because here's this guy who's like, I don't really want to kill nobody. I don't really want to do nothing. But
I just want to hug people.
Pretty much. But then they kill him in episode 9. And I'm like, every time I think you're introducing somebody to be the foil to Rick, it doesn't happen.
Oh, yeah. By the way, throughout that whole scene, I thought he was going to survive.
I did too.
And then I thought, this is interesting because maybe the bite doesn't always kill you, but it does.
Yeah.
So they spent a whole bunch of time making me think that he'll actually survive, and he doesn't. So it's like,
exactly.
Oh, why why even explore what's going on from his point of view? It doesn't shed any new light on it at all. That was a very Lost-like episode, I noticed. Like, he's talking to people who are dead, and and it was weird.
Let me ask you this. Because I can't help but shake the feeling sometimes in episodes, especially like that, like this season or episode 9. I feel like sometimes those are waste of time episodes because, like you said, they're not really shedding new light on anything, and the primary like plot that we're following is him trying to survive, right? And then when he doesn't survive, it doesn't really affect any of the other characters who do live.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the time that we spent watching him fight to live is wasted when he dies and nothing is changed by his death.
Yeah, exactly. Like they bury him and stuff, and it's sad, but like it was essentially a bottle episode. I mean, all it accomplished was the only thing that really changed was, okay, now there's one less protagonist. Sure. But that's not. I mean, shit, this isn't Grey's Anatomy. Where one of the main characters. It's not like that really means anything. People dying on this show is just so commonplace. It doesn't have any real meaning. And I'm so sick of people dying by things they could have prevented. So the little boy just walks. This is a guy who was in a horde full of these things and managed to kill a ton of them. And he's looking at fucking pictures in a house, and one of them sneaks up on him and bites him. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's stupid.
Like, why couldn't you just? You could have stood in the corner with your back to the corner and then craned your neck to look at that picture. But you don't even shut the bedroom door. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, it's just all this stuff that they should know better. Dude, I'm in a new house. Do you know how many times I turn around to make sure no one's behind me? I mean, seriously. Like, it's not...
Yeah. Plus, I'm still confused about the zombies, right? Because here they are. They're dumb. They're slow. So I'm a little confused as to how they're even a threat, number one.
Yeah.
And number two... How do they sneak up on people? Every time we see them, they're loud and groaning. So how do they sneak up on you?
But that
doesn't
one was
make any sense.
That one tiptoed up to him,
completely just like a ninja zombie.
If only they had played that that cartoon music cue,
Yeah.
Like Tyrese is sitting there looking at pictures like, oh, these are some little boys, and you just hear, doom, boom. He's like, where's that music coming? Oh shit, a zombie!
Oh no! Ow!
Oh!
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm just confused about how any of that even happens ever.
Yeah.
Because literally every time we see them, when they smell a person, they're like, Nyah!
Yeah.
And I'm like, why was he quiet? That doesn't make sense. And
because we don't know what else to do with Tyrese, so
yeah, pretty much. I mean, no, that's the answer. We as writers are stuck. We don't know, and let's just kill him. But the other interesting point about that episode is that the cast is so minimal. It's literally just Rick, Michonne, Glenn, Tyrese, and Noah,
and.
Right?
Maggie.
Oh, and Wait, was Maggie there?
Was she there? Oh. Okay, maybe she wasn't there.
During the events.
Yeah, no, not during the event. Sorry.
Okay.
I was like, there's way more characters.
So it's just 5 of them, and the rest of them are supposedly in another vehicle on their way.
Right.
Because they do show up at the funeral for Tyrese. But my question is, if the show was able to proceed without them, without us missing them, what purpose are they serving? Does that make sense? I don't know. It's for me, I feel like the cast is too big, and all you need are like maybe 6 or 7 people. Period. You need Rick, Michonne, Carl, Glenn, Maggie, and Daryl.
Yeah,
and maybe Carol. So 7. And
right.
literally every other character can go, and it does not, to me, change anything. The priest, Eugene, what's his face, Abraham, what's her face. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So to me, there's a lot of fat in the show that needs to be trimmed beyond just the boring dialogue moments.
You can't do that though. You can't trim those characters because almost all of them are black.
Well, and also you have to have people to kill. You have to have red shirts, I guess.
Exactly.
But I mean, imagine if you just had 7 people and they would meet somebody every now and then, you could kill them. But if you just had those 7 people, when one of those people die, how affecting to the audience that would be, rather than just keep killing the characters we don't care about.
Yeah. I mean,
It
every season you kind of have to lose at least one of the main people we've known from the beginning. I mean, Michonne's kind of become a good main character, and it would affect me if she was killed. Because I feel like she's an asset to their group.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but killing Tyrese is just like, all right, he wasn't doing much anyway. He seemed kind of just, he didn't really add much.
Exactly.
So,
and also I thought it was funny when he was like seeing all the dead people.
Yeah.
You see Beth, you see Bob, you see those 2 girls and the governor. But out of all of those, only the governor and Beth really even mattered. It just reminded me how pointless a lot of those characters were.
Right.
But anyway, I don't know. Look, The Walking Dead is still fun to watch. It's fun to like just put it on and kind of check out. But really, it's not doing anything revolutionary. It's not doing anything really interesting or really worth like your time and money necessarily. Like, I look at it like this, and I never thought I would say this, but there are 2 shows on the CW right now that I would rather watch than this show on AMC.
Yeah.
And that to me is so strange. And yes, I'll give it to The Walking Dead that, you know, their acting tends to be better, the cinematography tends to be better. But really what The Walking Dead is doing, like at this point, we're 5 seasons in. If I were, you know, 5 seasons into Breaking Bad, I would be like, I have to see how this ends. But with The Walking Dead, I'm not. There's not any burning question that I'm like, I have to know before this show is over. I have to know the answer to this question. There's no question like that.
Yeah.
For me, Lost was full of those burning questions. And we know how disappointing that was at the end, Lost, but Lost was still, to me, a better show than The Walking Dead is right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. Like I said, it's still fun to watch, but they've got to use that keyboard a little more than just the one note.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and put this one to bed. I think we've said our piece on it, so.
Sure.
Okay.
You're starting to Starscream, so I don't know if that's going on the recording or if that's just what I hear, but bye everybody. See you next time.